I need you to follow along with me here. Here's what happens. We have these adult conversations where I explain situations, and I inevitably get hate mail from people who think I'm attacking the president, insulting him, and I'm not. I'm trying to explain a situation so that steps can be taken, even providing a solution. But there are people who oftentimes hear what they want to hear, and inevitably they get angry with me. And I'm a little bit hesitant to go down this road because I know that some people, they're going to hear what they want to hear. They're not very bright people, and they're going to fire off angry emails when, in fact, I am trying to do everybody a favor here by telling everybody I know what's going to happen. We need to prepare for it, and I have ideas on how to plan for it. So I need you just to listen. Don't be mad at me for telling you the truth. It was Isaac Newton who explained to us that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and this applies in politics as well. A backlash is coming against Donald Trump and his policies. It's inevitable. It always happens. It happens to the left. It happens to the right. It happens to whoever is in power. That is why the person who controls the White House typically sees his party lose in the midterm elections. It's part of a backlash. The backlash is coming in large part because of tariffs and the economy and a possible recession. People will take it out on the Republicans. However, if you accept that a backlash is coming, as it inevitably will, you can shape the backlash to your advantage. And that's what the Republicans need to do. Now, let's first get into the data on the makings of this backlash. Steve Kornacki, the data analyst for NBC, was on Meet the Press yesterday with Kristen Welker. Let's listen to some of this. Kristen Welker had him on to review a lot of the economic and polling data that's out there that is more and more suggestive of, well, voters starting to get restless.
The dizzying policy shifts on tariffs and concerns about the health of the economy produced one of the worst weeks on Wall Street in months. Steve Kornacki is here to take us through all the numbers. Steve, what are you seeing? And good morning.
Good morning, Kristen. Yeah, I mean, uneasy, volatile, unsettling. You can pick whatever adjective you want, but here's what the numbers look like this past week. Looking at the Dow average here with all of the news. You start last Monday, and look, you could see how the average just plummeted late Monday. That is when Trump made the announcement that the tariffs were coming. It continued on Tuesday as the tariffs were imposed. Of course, then you had the reprieve for automakers, deferring a lot of the other tariffs, and the market did start to make a little bit of upward movement. And actually, on Friday, when you added in that new jobs report, some folks on Wall Street feared it might be worse than it was. The market actually did close up a bit on Friday, but down significantly for the week. And if we broaden this out, zoom out, and take a broader look at the trajectory of the market here, two things to highlight here in terms of Trump and his policies. Take a look at this. Again, this is the Dow average. Between Election Day and Inauguration Day, it was up basically 4%. There was optimism on Wall Street about what Trump would do as president. But since Inauguration Day, when Donald Trump began enacting policies like we saw this week with tariffs, it's been a very different reaction from Wall Street, down more than 1.5 points since Trump was inaugurated. Now, to put that in further perspective, we can compare that number, down 1.6% from inauguration, to other modern presidents, the first couple months of their presidency. And again, look at this. It was up 6% in Trump's first term. Look at all of these other presidents, Clinton, in both of his terms, Bush, Biden. It was up in all of these. The list even continues here. You can go all the way back to 1989 with George Bush Sr. We'll pop that one up there and you'll see it actually went up with him. So here it is, Trump going down 1.6% in these first few months here. The only other negative number we've seen in modern times, I mean, this is nowhere near in the same ballpark, but 20% when Obama took over in 2009. Remember, that was in the middle of the meltdown on Wall Street.
Now, yeah, before you say, so Obama was worse, yes, but that was the financial crisis that started at the end of the Bush administration. People are attributing these to Donald Trump. Let me give you the timeline here on tariffs. On January 21st, Trump promised to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico. He did so February 1st. On February 3rd, he gave a reprieve. On February 27th, he said tariffs on Mexico and Canada would go into effect March 4th. On March 1st, he ordered an increase in U.S. lumber production. On March 1st, on March 4th, he imposed 25% tariff on all imports from Canada and Mexico, a 10% tariff on all imports from China. On March 5th, he accused Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of imposing tariffs on the U.S. to stay in power. And then he paused tariffs on cars from U.S. and Mexico for a month. And then on March 6th, suspended many of the tariffs imposed on Canada and Mexico. You can defend it if you wish to defend it, and that's fine. And to a degree I have, but it is the volatility, the back and forth, the seemingly changing his mind on a daily basis that's adding to instability in the markets. And a lot of Americans, like it or not, use the markets to define whether or not their 401k is going to be okay. Now, this is the president. He was talking, answering questions from people. He was asking about the tariffs on Air Force One.
Tariffs are going to be the greatest thing we've ever done as a country. It's going to make our country rich again. We have many companies, as you know, auto companies are opening up plants now. We've had 4 or 5 announced already, but many more are coming. And we're basically going to take back the money, a lot of the money that we've given away over many decades. We've lost our jobs. We've lost our factories. We've lost 90,000 factories since the beginning of NAFTA. It's not that long ago. 90,000 factories. Think of that. And we're going to get them back. And they're coming back. And they're coming back in records. Look at what happened with the big chip company, the biggest in the world. By far the most powerful chip company in the world from Taiwan. And they're going in with $200 billion of money, and they're going to build something that's going to give us 35-40% of the chip market in one company. No, it's going to bring it back, and I think it's going to make us bring us to a level that we've never had before.
Now, he's not wrong about these plants reopening. The question is the pacing and the timing. From Bloomberg, U.S. consumers expect slightly higher inflation in the near term and are growing more pessimistic about their finances, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Median expectations for year-ahead inflation rose slightly February to 3.1% from 3% in January, according to Consumer Expectations report from the New York Fed. Consumers' outlook for inflation 3 and 5 years out held steady at 3%. Inflation expectations are particularly important as President Trump's policies, including a crackdown on immigration and tariffs against America's largest trading partners, threaten to slow growth and add to stubborn price pressures. Now, don't yell at me. Just continue to listen to the point I'm making so you can see where I'm going with this, but I got to play you one more. This is from Badia Unger Sargon. She is a columnist for the Free Press trying to explain tariffs and why they're good in a way that a lot of Trump supporters would embrace.
Donald Trump has done an amazing thing. He turned the GOP into the party of the working class, and working class voters love tariffs because they make their labor more rewarding for them. They get the American working class higher wages, which they can then use in the marketplace to compete against elites and to actually achieve the American dream. President Trump is teaching a generation of Republicans and business leaders how to build an amazing economy that will lift all boats, that will lift working class people as well as the stock market, and that will give the GOP a ruling majority for years and years to come. An economy based on love of country that will make America into the powerhouse of manufacturing, the superpower that it used to be. And I cannot get over the chutzpah of these business leaders sitting there whining about their quarterly reports while President Trump teaches them how to build an economy based on love of country and love of your neighbor. We should be listening and watching and saying thank you rather than whining and moaning.
Easy to say. We're building an economy based on love of neighbor. The Dow is down 562 points right now, and the NASDAQ down 663 points right now. By the way, it's actually real chutzpah for her to say that the working class love tariffs because it makes their labor more valuable. It doesn't actually. It makes the cost of goods more expensive from abroad. And you do need to understand this is a basic point. This is the argument from the Trump team that because it will cause the prices of imports to go up so much, it will actually be better to build things in this country, even though they're more expensive than what you're buying now, they'll be less expensive than the tariffs. But the cost is still going to go up. And what the Trump administration argues, what she argues, is that that will translate into higher wages in this country. We're not sure that's the case. But here's what we do know. It's going to take some time. So the backlash is going to come. I want to go back to 2022. What did the Democrats do? They elevated the shrillest rhetoric from the Republican side to argue, in effect, that crazy would take over. If the Republicans came back to power, look how unhinged they are, how anti-democratic they are, how much of a threat to democracy they are, how not nice they are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the Democrats, they knew the backlash was coming, but they made the face of the backlash the crazy on the right, the anti-Semites, the neo-Nazis, all the people who said the fringiest things on the right. Look, the backlash is going to come because whether you believe tariffs are going to help or not, it is indisputable at this point that it's going to take a while to see the results. And in the meantime, you can get a recession. The markets are falling because of the tariffs. The markets don't like the tariffs. You may like the tariffs. The markets don't. At the end of the day, your 401k is not going to like the tariffs. So a backlash is going to come. So what the GOP needs to do, knowing that the backlash is coming, whether you like it or not, is to begin to elevate the shrillest voices on the left so that the American people are more willing to give the Republicans time to see if their policies work. That's why it is helpful for people like Marco Rubio to be throwing out of the country the anti-Semites who are pro-Hamas. Elevate the faces of terrorism as the voices of the Democratic Party. Elevate the transgender crazy activists as the voices of the Democratic Party. Elevate the progressive squad as the faces and voices of the Democratic Party. It's indisputable. People are going to see the stock market go down. They're going to see prices go up initially because of tariffs before the factories are built and opened and the people are hired for jobs. And so they're going to feel like Donald Trump has made things worse when he promised to make things better because Americans are impatient and they don't have a long memory anymore. So elevate the crazy fringe of the left to be the faces of the Democratic Party. So that when the public decides, I got to pick, do I want to stay down this road and give Trump time to turn things around or not, the voices and the faces that are elevated on the left are so hostile and alien to the American public that they decide to stick with Trump and let his policies work over time. That's the point here. Don't be mad at me for pointing out a backlash is coming. Backlashes come every 2 years. Backlashes come as just a regular part of the American election. When you have the alien crazy fringe on the left as the alternate, though, you mitigate the backlash. You mitigate it. So allow the crazy voices on the left to rise. Allow them to be platformed in the media. Allow them to be completely out of touch. And the American people who may not like the tariffs right now, they may not like what's happening with the stock market, they may not think it's going to go well for them, will start saying, you know what, I think I'd rather give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt and just hang on 2 more years and see what happens instead of turning the corner and going backwards to the left. We got to mitigate the backlash. The backlash is always inevitable, but there's a way to turn it to our advantage before we head into the midterms. We just got to be smart enough to be able to do it.